Hey guys, today we're going to do the unboxing and overview of the GPD Win 4. This is the newest GPD handheld that just came out. I backed this on Indiegogo last December, and now it's April, so it's taken only 4 months actually for me to get this, which is a fairly fast turnaround time for a Kickstarter project. Because yeah, usually Kickstarter, Indiegogo projects, they might take years or they might not even happen, right? So yeah, this is definitely a pleasant surprise, right? GPD has had a good track record of actually, delivering their products. This one came out in only 4 months, so that's a pleasant surprise. That took a fairly fast time for this to be developed. And yeah, so this product, obviously it's a successor to the GPD Win 3, which I also have. I actually backed every GPD Win device. Yeah, basically 1, 2, 3, and 4. I've backed all of them. I've done videos on all of them on my YouTube channel. And of course, this is the latest iteration. It costs $900, so it's definitely not cheap. I'm not sure how much it's going to be in demand, but at least that's the price I paid for it when I backed it. And this is for the 16 gigabyte memory, 1 terabyte solid state drive version. And yeah, $900 still a lot. Obviously more expensive than the Steam Deck still. So this has a lot to live up to. So I really hope that this performs, at least I'm expecting it to perform closer to the Steam Deck, because so far the Steam Deck has outperformed all the other small gaming handhelds I've tried. So anyways, let's take a look. Alright, so here you have the standard GPD black box here. This is pretty consistent across all their devices. I've also got the Pocket 3, and I've unboxed the Pocket 1 and 2 as well. So I have had experience with a lot of GPD devices. They all pretty much look like this with the package. Okay, so it's quality, innovation, extreme service. Now the thing about GPD is I've had issues with their quality before, with a lot of their products. So especially their Win products. So my Win 2, I had to fix the display cable. That was a common issue. With the micro PC, I had to fix the battery. I had to replace it. So that's also a fairly common issue, I think, on that device. And then GPD Win 3 had basically the controller switch between the mouse and keyboard and the X input mode or the game controller mode doesn't always detect. So that's also a fairly common issue I've heard online. So yeah, about the quality thing, I'm not sure. I've had a lot of QC issues with GPD devices in the past, but let's just hope that the Win 4 doesn't have those such QC issues. All right. So yeah, here's the device here, and we'll get to the device. Actually, let's just finish the unboxing. So we have a lanyard. That's interesting. I guess you can carry this on your hand. I guess it's small enough to, maybe you'd want to. I'm not sure if I would ever carry this with a lanyard, but yeah, you have that, includes it. And then you have a screen protector, so it's nice of GPD to include that. Let's take a look. This is probably the charger and the charging brick, I'm guessing. Okay. Yep, so this is your standard USB-C to USB-C cable right here, as expected. And I'm guessing the other one is the charging brick. Yep, here's the charging brick. Alright, so yeah, so far, screen protector, charging brick, charging cable, USB-C to USB-C, and a lanyard. And then this, what's this small piece right here? I'm not sure what this is. But there's a small piece right here. I guess you can stick it onto somewhere on the GPD Win 4, interestingly enough. Not exactly sure what that's for. It says actions speak louder than words. Okay, we'll see about that. I think gameplay speaks louder than words, right? Performance speaks louder than words. Here's the GPD Win 4 itself, and before I get to that, this is the, I'm guessing it's just the quick start. So let's take a look. Yep, so you have the manual quick start here. This, of course, GPD is a Chinese company, so it'll be in Chinese first. Yep, so you have a layout of the controls and everything. I guess you have the Chinese type of explanations first. Yeah, it's all in Chinese first, and then you have the English part. Tell you about the different connectors and ports and what they do. Usually this is pretty self-explanatory, unless there's a port on there that's not obvious what it does. So I don't really need to read that mostly. Yeah, the shortcuts, that might be useful. So yeah, there might be different shortcuts you might want to use. There's some specs. Warranty card. Okay, that's pretty much all that's here. I like how they keep that just to one booklet. You know, some people go crazy with multiple booklets, but Yeah, that's good. All right, so here's the GPD Win 4. Let me actually give you a breakdown of the specs. So first of all, yeah, this is the 16 gig, 1 terabyte SSD version, like I said. The screen is a 6-inch display, 16:9, 1920 by 1080. That's full HD, of course. It is an IPS display, so there's no OLED going on here, which is a little bit of a disappointment, I think, because we have other gaming handheld devices with OLED, like the Nintendo Switch OLED, and the Aya Neo has OLED on some of their devices. So yeah, it's still IPS, unfortunately. It has an AMD Ryzen 7 6800U CPU, which goes up to, the base frequency is 2.7 gigahertz, but it boosts up to 4.7. That's actually quite a bit. It's 28 watts TDP. It's got integrated graphics, AMD Radeon 680M, and I guess that's all expected for handhelds. So far, we have not seen any dedicated graphics in any handheld yet. And yeah, it uses one M2 PCIe 4 NVMe 2280 SSD. So I guess that's replaceable, I'm guessing, because the past Win devices have had replaceable SSDs. So anyways, then you have your standard support Wi-Fi AX, supports Bluetooth 5.2. Okay, so yeah, those are the specs for this device. And just holding it right now, I can tell you that this device is a bit heavier than the GPD Win 3. Actually, we can probably do a direct comparison because I have my GPD Win 3 on hand here. So this is the GPD Win 3, the previous device. Yeah, just holding it, I can tell you that the Win 4 is slightly heavier. Not by a lot, but slightly heavier. So it's a little bit more of a substantial feeling device. And I think yeah, you can tell that the Win 4 is slightly bulkier as well. So it's slightly thicker. And that might be because it has more powerful components in it. So we'll see actually with the gaming performance how much better it is. But yeah, right now it definitely is a bit thicker and heavier. Dimensions wise, almost the same. The Win 4 is slightly bigger. Yeah, I mean, I can't think of any case where you can fit a Win 3 but not a Win 4, right? Win 4 is like slightly larger and bulkier, but not by a lot. So we can compare the exterior here. So as far as I know, the analog sticks on the Win 4 so far, they feel pretty good. I would say probably better than the analog sticks on the Win 3. Yeah, so I think GPD definitely took, every generation they should improve their devices, right? They get more feedback from users, etc. They should be able to improve their devices. And I think these are upgraded analog sticks. They're using ALPS controllers that are apparently, according to their description, similar in quality to Sanwa and Shimizu joysticks, which are, for those of you who are into arcade games, the old arcade cabinets used in Japan, the joysticks were made by Shimizu or Sanwa, which means they're fairly high quality, they can stand a lot of abuse, and should be fairly reliable. But so far, yeah, just from my experience holding this, yeah, these definitely feel a bit better than the ones on the Win 3. But we'll see when we're testing out the games, but so far the joysticks definitely feel like a step up. And then we have the face buttons here, and the D-pad, which actually both feel fairly similar to the ones on the Win 3. The ones on the Win 3, I always felt that the face buttons were a bit small, so I always felt like they could be bigger. The D-pad feels a bit stiff. I mean, it's not bad. It's definitely an improvement from the Win 2. Like the Win 2, actually the Win 2 analog sticks, obviously, these ones are much better than the Win 2. And the D-pad and the face buttons are all an improvement from the Win 2. So the step from Win 2 to Win 3 is massive. Whereas the Win 4 is like a slight step up, but doesn't seem as massive of an upgrade in terms of the actual controls. So yeah, D-pad and face buttons feel roughly about the same. I don't think they're substantially different. I still think that the face button's a bit too small and the D-pad's a bit stiff. But it's alright. I mean, definitely it's very, very usable and not bad. Then there's a fingerprint sensor that's been, actually it's on the right side on the Win 3, but it's been moved to the left side on the Win 4, and I think that's because they added this optical track point nub right here, which is similar to those of you who have used One Mix devices. Like I have the One Mix Yoga 3, but there's the One Mix 4 and everything. Those of you who are used One Netbook devices and some of the older umpcs from back in the day, they use these track point devices. Yeah, so this gives you another mouse input basically. So it's nice that it has this. The Win 3 doesn't have anything like that. Basically, the way to control the mouse on the screen before is to either use this analog stick or just to use the touchscreen. But here on the Win 4, you can use either the analog stick or the touchscreen, or you can use this extra optical nub here, which is nice. I mean, it's nice having an extra input option. So you got 3 input options here. That's nice. And then you have the start button, the select button, or actually it's the select button and the start button, I should say. Move to down here on opposite sides. Compared to the Win 3, they were all together on the left side. And I like this layout better. I think that's more ergonomic, right? You have better access to select and start rather than just having them both right here. I prefer this layout, so that's an improvement. I think these are speakers right here, front facing, which should be an improvement over the bottom facing speakers on the Win 3. And yeah, I don't like the Win 3 speakers. They're just very basic speakers. Hopefully we have a better sound quality now with front-facing speakers here. This has a lanyard strap, so again, it comes with a lanyard. I'm not sure when you would use that, but maybe some people would use it. I would not. This is too heavy of a device for me to use that. I would not risk it anyways. This is almost $1,000, right? A menu button here is interesting. I wonder what this is for. So supposedly this is compatible with Steam OS. But right now, actually, if you go into Steam, you launch Steam in big picture mode, I think on this device, it will go into Steam OS or a Steam OS interface sort of. So yeah, maybe this is menu buttons for that. So this is definitely an extra button that we don't see on the Win 3. Then on the bottom, we have the USB-C port, which I believe is pretty similar, as you can see, to the Win 3. So they both have one USB-C port on the bottom. You can use it for charging or connecting to a dock, which I do have the Win 3 dock right here. So I got the Win 3 dock, don't have the Win 4 dock, because I think they should use the same dock. This is the Win 3 dock. It has a USB-C, HDMI, 3 USB-A ports, and Ethernet. So yeah, let's see if obviously the Win 3 works with this, right? You just plop it down like that, and it works, and you can connect it to your TV or whatever. And then the Win 4, which comes with pretty much the same interface and location at the bottom here, yeah, I think it should work. So yeah, the GPD Win 3 dock should be able to work with the Win 4. Should be no issue. All right, then we can look at the, on top, the GPD Win 4 has 2 shoulder triggers right here, and then 2 triggers on the back. So just testing the shoulder triggers, I definitely think that the Win 4 triggers are better. So these ones, a little bit better, like feels better to use. It's more ergonomic, I think, for me at least. It feels a little bit better when I press on it. So yeah, I think these should be a little bit easier to use than the Win 3 triggers. Yeah, the shoulder triggers on the Win 3 are, yeah, they're just okay. They're usable, but definitely improved on the Win 4. I can tell that they improved the response of this a lot, so it feels better to press on it. So yeah, I think the triggers are definitely an improvement on the Win 4. Then if you look on top here, so yeah, both power buttons in the same place, volume buttons in the same place. This one has an additional USB-C port on top as well, so that's nice to have an additional one. Both have USB-A ports, USB 3, I'm guessing, and then headphone jacks. Both of them have that. It's well appreciated, of course. And both have the grills here for fanning the air out on top. So yeah, on top they're mostly similar, except the Win 4 has an extra USB-C port. Alright, and on the right side there isn't anything to talk about. Nothing on the right side. On the left side we have the micro SD and controller switch ports. So you guys can see here. There's a switch between keyboard and mouse mode and the game controller mode. Both of these are on the left side. And the micro SD slot also on the left side on both these as well. Now I hope that the GPD Win 4 doesn't have the same issues with the switch that the Win 3 had. The Win 3, I ran into issues like a lot of people did online, where switching between these is can get faulty, and the operating system doesn't detect it. So I had to do it, basically got to go through a lot of steps so that this does not go into sleep mode. For some reason, going into sleep mode doesn't detect the switch between these two. And some people even have hardware issues where I have to take apart the Win3 and kind of press down on the little pad or something that was, not, or the contact or something that was not properly in switching between these. So anyways, I hope that the Win 4 doesn't have the same issues that the Win 3 does. So that was one of my major issues with the Win 3 was, the controller switch is a bit faulty, I think. Or the design is not that great for this. Because the contact points, I think, is not, it could be like damaged or something like that, or it could be loose, but you got to press down on the screw right here or something like that. I think some people had to use alcohol or something like that to clean it. Anyways, a bunch of weird stuff with the Win 3 with regards to that. So yeah, that's pretty much comparison between two there. Oh yeah, this has an X button. Maybe this extra X button here is similar to the menu button on the Win 4. So maybe they do have this extra menu button might be similar to this little X button here. So for L3 and R3, you can press down on the Win 3's analog stick to activate those. Same thing on the Win 4. You can press down on the analog stick, so no problem with that. Both feel pretty nice, I'd say. Like I said, the Win 4 probably has the better analog sticks and feels a little bit better. And the indicator lights, so the Win 3 has the indicator lights on the left side, whereas the Win 4 has it on the right side. So you can tell when the device is on or has doing some activity, so that's nice. You can take a look at the backs as well. I think the backs are fairly similar. So yeah, the Win 4 and the Win 3, like both of them have these large grill vents where you can see the airflow go into the device, so it's good for cooling. And they both have the additional buttons on the back right here. I'm not sure exactly what to call these buttons, but they're additional buttons that you can use. So that's nice. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think the other thing you can see, there's a textured grip on the back of the Win 4. So that makes it a little bit more comfortable to hold compared to the Win 3. So the Win 4 is a bit more ergonomic, as you can tell. Right? They have a little bit of a bump here. Put your palms and your hands, and a textured grip. The Win 3 doesn't have that, just a little bit of a bulge. So holding the Win 3 is okay. I mean, it is a lighter device, so yeah, feels okay to hold, but the Win 4 definitely feels more ergonomic and the grip is better. So the Win 3 has a 5.5-inch 720p display, so it's slightly smaller and lower resolution. The Win 4 has a 6-inch 1080p Full HD display. So that's a pretty big difference, I would say. Another big difference is the keyboards, and actually that's probably one of the main reasons I upgraded to the Win 4. The Win 4, of course, is more powerful, it has better controllers, but it also has a substantially better keyboard in my opinion. So if we slide up the display on the Win 3, right, this is one of the main features on the Win 3 that makes it differentiating from other gaming handhelds, is that it comes with a built-in keyboard. You just slide up on the display. So this keyboard though, when I first saw it, I know that what they were trying to do, like when I first saw the Win 3, I thought they were trying to be like the Sony Vaio UX, which is this really old umpc handheld from back in the mid-2000s. I thought the design is fairly similar, even the dock is fairly similar, and they were trying to take inspiration from the Vaio UX, which I understand. But the keyboard here, this is a capacitive touch keyboard. It's got haptic feedback, so it does let you know when you're pressing the keys, but it just doesn't feel good to type on. Like anyone who has bought a Microsoft Surface laptop, you know how the Microsoft Surface tablet, I mean, you know how it comes with the type cover versus the touch cover that Microsoft sells separately? You know why no one buys those touch covers? It's because the type cover, like people like to have physical tactile feedback when they're typing. And this keyboard just doesn't do that. It's got haptic feedback, which is nice, but it doesn't give you the satisfying feeling of actually pressing on a physical keys. So that's one of the main disappointments and criticisms I had about the GPD Win 3, is that the keyboard is it's a touch keyboard essentially. Yeah, it's not a physical keyboard. So it's, yeah, capacitive haptic feedback just does not give you the satisfying feeling of typing on this keyboard. But let's look at the Win 4. So the Win 4, you slide up and you get a physical keyboard, a full physical keyboard. Now, I can tell with these keys, it's not, it's very low travel. So I would say it's actually fairly similar to the Sony Vaio UX from, you know, years and years ago, where the keyboard is very flat, very low travel, but at least it gives you physical feedback, right? So I still consider this keyboard a major upgrade over that of the Win 3. It's really one of the main reasons why I got the Win 4. It's this physical keyboard. It just feels a lot better to type on, right? The Win 3 is like, man, you're trying to do like a new age Sony Vaio UX, which I love. I love the design of that, but you messed up on the keyboard, right? This is a touch keyboard with haptic feedback. It's just not the same as a physical keyboard, and I really am glad that GPD fixed this with the Win 4. Now we have a full physical keyboard the way that it was meant to be, right? So that's what the Sony Vaio UX was. It had a flat physical keyboard, low travel, so it's not a great keyboard by any means, but it's still better than having a touch keyboard, right? That's why when people buy the Surface tablet, most people, the majority, I would say, opt for the type cover over the touch cover, right? It's just because it just feels a lot better. It's just a lot better having physical feedback and tactile feedback when you press on the keys. So anyways, that's one of the major differences I would say between the Win 4 and the Win 3 is the keyboard. All right, let's get on to the performance now. That's really all the external differences between the two. And let's see how much better the GPD Win 4 performs. I know the Win 3 came out before the Steam Deck, so it's not as powerful as the Steam Deck, so it's got an excuse because it actually, you know, it came out before, and yeah, this was pretty much the best gaming handheld at the time before the deck. But now the Win 4, it's got roughly, you know, a year or so. Look at the Steam Deck, so should be at least competitive with the Steam Deck, I would say. Not expecting it to be superior or anything because it is a much smaller device, but we'll see how it actually performs. It should be at least competitive, I would imagine. Alright, so now I have the GPD Win 4 up and running, and I have to say it looks pretty nice. I mean, this is a 1080p display. It's not OLED, but it's a nice IPS display. You notice that we have some RGB lighting on the triggers here. Now, I didn't expect that. I mean, I thought these were just going to be regular triggers, but the fact that they have some RGB lighting on here, it just adds a nice little extra touch. Kind of reminds me of the AED Neo Air's little lighting around the analog sticks. So yeah, that's a pretty nice touch. So yeah, I'm going to log in, like single fingerprint sensor. It's fairly fast, works. So yeah, now you're here. So a little bit about how the Win works actually. So you have 4 different input options on this device for navigation. So you have the touchscreen display here, which works as you expect. It's a touch display. So you have that as an option. You also have this optical track point nub, which you can use to control the mouse on here. And if you want to click something, then you actually can just press down on it. So you can press down on this and you can just go into it. So yeah, basically that's how it works here. Just press down on the optical track point. Or you can also switch to the mouse and keyboard mode and then use the analog stick to control the mouse. It's a little bit slower, but it still works. And then you would use the left trigger basically to open up to click on something. So left trigger basically acts as a left click on the mouse. So that's how that works, and then the right trigger acts as a right click. So that's a right click, and this is a left click. So yeah, that's basically the how it works. And then we can go into gamepad mode as well, which is what I usually do in games. It won't do anything on the desktop, obviously. I think what we can do here, though, is let's try out the big picture mode, because it's kind of like Steam OS, essentially, right? Alright. Okay, so this is basically like Steam OS, and I'll switch it to the controller mode now. So I guess I can control these using I can use the D-pad, the analog sticks all work, because yeah, in gamepad mode it just uses the analog sticks and the D-pad and the face buttons for clicking, basically. And then it would work as you expect if you ever used a controller. Like, you can click into it like this, you can go back. So this is gamepad mode, or I can go back to the mouse and controller mode, right? And then I would control my cursor using this, and I would just use my trigger to go like this. So yeah, it's nice that you have all these different inputs, and of course I have even an optical. So having this extra optical option is nice because I always used to have to switch back to the mouse and keyboard mode just to control the mouse in order to, you know, some games you have to use the mouse, the game controller doesn't work as well and stuff, so I just want to temporarily switch back to the mouse. But now you don't have to do that because you always have this optical track point nub. So you always have an option, but then you can keep it on game controller mode. You don't necessarily have to switch out of it now to control the mouse. So that's nice. It's a nice little extra touch for those of you who kept switching between the game controller and the mouse and keyboard mode just to access the mouse sometimes. You don't have to do that anymore with the optical track point. So that's cool. And you have the touchscreen as well, right? So it's really cool. You have all these different input options. You have 4 different options. Essentially, you have the touch display, then you have the optical track point. Used to clicking that, and then obviously you have the gamepad, and you have the mouse and keyboard mode as well, right? Just that. So that's it. That's really cool to have all these different options. So I was wondering what this menu button does, right? So all this menu button does is bring up an overlay on top of your desktop or whatever game you're playing, and you have access to all your recently launched games, as well as a games launcher like Xbox, which is basically Windows Store games, Steam, Ubisoft, and Epic Games Launcher. Those are the ones I have installed. Anyways, let's play some games. First, let's play God of War, because this is the game I use to test out a lot of my other devices as well. So we can do actually a direct comparison between the performance of this, the Win 4 and the Win 3 and the Steam Deck and the AN Neo Air Pro, because I play God of War on all these. Okay, one thing to note is that I'm going to be testing these games all on the 1080p mode as well as the 720p mode. And that's because in order to have a fair comparison, the GPD Win 3 is a 720p display, and the Steam Deck is also a 720p display. So in order to be fair, I'm going to run it on both 720p in order to do a more direct comparison, and then I'm going to bump up the resolution to see how it handles a full HD native resolution as well. So anyways, here's God of War. At the same time, I'm going to test out the speakers here. So I have the speakers on full, so you guys can hear the speakers. And yeah, so far I think the speakers are definitely pretty good. Noticeable improvement over the Win 3, I believe. Definitely hear the fans working on this one. And you know, God of War is a fairly demanding game, so I think it's a nice one to test out. You can see FPS as well. Okay, so this is God of War on high settings, running at 1080p resolution, and it's running at around 30 to 35 FPS, I'd say, which is pretty good, actually, considering this is full HD resolution and it's high settings. So that's actually pretty good. Let's see if we have an option to dial it down a bit. I don't have an option to change the resolution somehow. Okay, well, this is... Okay. Unfortunately, I don't think there's a full screen option. I can only do borderless and windowed. So in order to do Windows, okay, I guess we'll just test out 720p this way. Alright, so I have to do it windowed. Unfortunately, there's no full screen option. But yeah, windowed, get around 40 to 45 FPS. Pretty nice. Yeah, that's actually pretty nice.
Won't stay open. But not.
No, obviously it's not ideal for this game because this game can only run on windowed mode. But yeah, it's running at about 40, I think 40 FPS to 45 on 720. That's very impressive compared to the. Actually, I'll show you guys how well it runs on the Win 3, the AN Neo Air Pro, as well as the Steam Deck, so you guys can do a direct comparison. And all those are running at 720, by the way, so it's a pretty direct comparison. But yeah, it seems like on the GPD Win 4 it's running at...
Is that big gear up there made of wood?
I mean, it dips down to 35 sometimes, but it doesn't really dip below 35 very much, and it pretty much goes up to 40, and yeah, maybe maintains about 40 on average. Pretty impressive. So yeah, this is on high settings. So at 720p, high settings averages around 40 FPS, and we've already seen that even on the full 1080p setting, it still gets around 30 to 35. So that is actually really impressive, given that this is, it's God of War on high settings, so on a handheld. So that's actually pretty impressive. So the speakers on the Win 4 are actually quite good. They're surprisingly good, actually. So compared to the Win 3, obviously much better. The Win 3 speakers were very anemic and very tinny sounding. Probably, yeah, all my other handhelds beat the Win 3 speakers. Compared to the AN Neo Air Pro speakers, those speakers are actually pretty decent. I can hear sort of a surround effect off from those speakers. But I think the Win 4 speakers are still a little bit better than the AN Neo Air Pros. And then the Nintendo Switch OLED speakers, I would say, are fairly similar to the AN Neo Air Pro speakers. So I think the Win 4 pretty much better than all the other devices of this size so far I've tested in terms of the sound quality from the speakers, which is impressive. And then compared to the Steam Deck, well, the Steam Deck, I think the speakers are pretty much the best out of all of the gaming handhelds I've had. But I think the Win 4 is up there. It's pretty much up there with the Steam Deck, which is very impressive. So if you guys just hear the sound quality, right? Again, have this at full volume so you guys can hear sound quality, and especially when he talks, actually. Hear the sound effects, right? A little bit of a surround effect on these speakers. So yeah, you hear those like birds crowing. I can hear like that coming out of. You hear some separation between those.
We do what we please, boy.
Yeah.
No excuses.
Alright, so far I'm running at 14 FPS here. And yeah, this is with my resolution turned down to 720 on original settings, not high settings. So it's not performing very well. I'm actually very kind of disappointed because comparison is on my Steam Deck when I played this game. As you can see in my video, I was getting roughly about 35 FPS in the normal, like just walking around in God of War under the same conditions. And then for the GPD Win 3, I was getting about 25 FPS just walking around under the same settings. Alright, so this is Agents of Mayhem. It is a game from 2017, and while it looks cartoonish, it's actually fairly taxing, I would say, on these small handheld gaming systems. I mean, I tried it out with the GPD Win 3 as well as the AN Neo, and I mean, of course it's still playable on those devices, but it's not like super high frame rates or anything, which is why I kind of wanted to test it out with the Win 4. So yeah, let's do this, deploy. Yeah, so it's basically the developers of Saints Row did kind of like this superhero spin-off thing.
Well, looks like we're leaving.
Yeah, and this is what it is, and it's it didn't sell too well. Most people probably don't know about this game. But it's interesting, at least. Different. Okay, let's go out. Just so you see, this loading screen is very similar to Saints Row. Okay, so this is actually
Let's get down to business.
Futuristic Soul here. So getting about 40 FPS, and this right now the graphics are set to high in 1080p. So it's full HD, high settings, and I'm getting about maybe 40 FPS. Okay, let's just take a car here, drive around. Yeah, say now we're getting like maybe 50 FPS. So yeah, we're getting maybe 40s to 50 FPS, 40 to 50, yeah. Maybe around 45 on average, and that's really good. I mean, given the fact that this is high setting on 1080p, right? So 40 to 50 FPS is nice. Then we can probably change it to 720 to see what we get there. We should see an even bigger resolution boost now. So we're gonna change to 720. Okay, and now let's see what happens. So this is the same resolution now that the GPD Win 3 runs at natively, and Steam Deck runs at natively. And the AN Neo Air Pro actually runs at 1080p, but I set it to 720 in the games I was playing, just to give it a bit of a frame rate boost. So this is a more fair comparison. Now you guys can see I'm running at 60 FPS, 50 to 60, basically. So yeah, definitely this Win 4 is crushing it. So even on the full 1080p, I mean, high settings is running 40 to 50, which is pretty good. And then 720 is running 50 to 60. So that's obviously very good. So yeah, definitely plays Agents of Mayhem quite well. Ages of Mayhem seems alright to me. It's not like fully playable like all the time, but for most of the time it is. So. Alright, Mafia Definitive Edition. This game is relatively recent. It came out in 2020.
First we got Al. He runs a bakery on Longman Street. You know it?
Yeah, I know it.
Al's late again? Seems so. That's too bad.
Broadcaster is to serve you. Start your day with WLH 570.
Alright, so we're going to drive out on the street a bit. Let's see what we get. Okay, about 40s, I think. Give the frame rate a little bit of time to stabilize, but we're getting around 40 FPS. This is on medium settings and on 720. Okay, now getting about 45. Yeah, I mean this game is definitely a pretty good looking game. So yeah, you can see the light and shadows and everything in this game. It's pretty good. So I would say averages around 40 FPS, sometimes goes up to 45. And this is on 720 on medium settings, which is pretty good. I mean, I remember on the Win 3, it was getting, in the AI Neo Air Pro, because they perform similar to the Win 3, get about maybe high 30s, but I don't think I would consistently get, like right now I'm getting 47. I don't think I would ever get that high, but maybe like high 30s. So yeah, I don't think I would ever be consistently getting 40s like on the Win 4. So definitely, you see the Win 4 is outperforming the Win 3 and the AI Neo Air Pro by about 10 FPS on average. Now if we actually change the graphics to 1080, let's see what we get. How much of a performance hit do we get now? Okay, so right now running 1080, we're getting about, yeah, definitely 30 FPS. Okay, so still playable. I think, you know, for me 30 FPS is the minimum to be playable. So it's still 30 FPS even on full HD resolution. I know it's like, yeah, maybe high 20s, but I would say around 30 is what we get here when we dial it up to 1080, which is pretty impressive actually. So yeah, I would say it gets about 40 FPS on 720 and 30 FPS on 1080. So overall, quite impressive for a gaming handheld like this. This is a pretty good looking game after all, and pretty recent. So yeah, Mafia Definitive Edition, I'd say runs fairly well in the Win 4. Yeah, on this device it runs, look, 16, 17, 18 FPS. I mean, I'm lucky if I get 20 FPS on this device. I don't get it. Like, why is it so much worse? I have it set to medium settings right now, running 720p, again, on the maximum game mode with the full TDP. Yeah, this is actually pretty good. I mean, considering this game is really recent, it's actually pretty impressive, and this is, you know, Intel Iris Xe graphics. Pretty good. Alright, next up we're going to try Stray, which just came out last year. Okay, so this is Stray, and we're getting around 30, 40, maybe 35 to 40 FPS. Okay. Yeah, about 35 to 40 FPS I would say right now. Okay, let's see what happens when we dial up the graphics. I'm going to dial up the graphics to full, I should just do borderless, yeah. Okay, so we dial it up to 1080 and see what happens. Okay, so now we're getting maybe like a 5 FPS performance hit, I'm guessing. Sorry guys, it was actually running on high settings, not medium settings, so my bad. On high settings, on 720p resolution, I get around 35 to 45 FPS, I would say. And then on 1080p high settings, I'm getting around, as you can see, just around 35 to 37, around there, but rarely goes into the 40s. Whereas, yeah, 720 gets me into maybe 40, 45 sometimes. But yeah, on 1080p, fully 1080p high settings, 35 is probably my average here. So again, not too much of a big difference when I up the resolution. Overall, I think it's definitely playable. It's not like going to go really fast or anything. You're not going to get really high frame rates because this is still a pretty recent game and pretty good looking game. But yeah, that's what you get in Stray. 720, you get about 40, I would say. FPS, and then on 1080p you get about 35, and that's on high settings, so not bad. So yeah, consistently getting about 40-50 FPS in Stray. Again, not too much of a graphically intensive game, but definitely the graphics are pretty good still, so it's a pretty recent game. Alright, so this is Control. It came out in 2019. It's a fairly recent game, I would say. And I'm running it on medium settings at 720p right now. So, yeah, 720p medium settings. There's not really too much action in this game. I mean, there is action, but you'd have to, like, yeah, kind of look for it. It is kind of a horror game. But yeah, right now, 720p resolution, medium settings. I'm getting around 50 FPS, which is quite good. So yeah, getting around 50, I would say, on average. So that's quite good. Control is definitely a nice looking game as well. And this is running DirectX 11 version. There's also DirectX 12 version, but it doesn't work well with my fraps. So yeah, I'm getting probably around 50 on average. And then we can probably dial up the graphics a little bit more. Let's see, if we change the preset to high, what happens? Okay, we dial up the graphics to high, and wow, I think that took a big bump. Okay, now it's 30 FPS. So basically it was like a 20 FPS. That was a 20 FPS hit from bumping up the graphics to high. Wow, that's crazy. Okay, what happens when we turn it to 1080 now? So we're going to do render resolution 1080 now. Okay. Oh man, okay, that's not good. Now you're getting around, yeah, 20 FPS. Yeah, that's not playable. We have to dial down the graphics. Yeah, changing it to high is really killed it. And put it back to medium. Okay. Okay, so medium settings, 1080p, we get about 30. Yeah. So just on the verge of being playable. So I think with Control it's interesting because dialing up the graphics to high or increasing the resolution really takes a performance hit. If you really want to play like Control, I would say just keep it on medium and 720. Yeah, because yeah, just dialing up to 1080 or putting it on high really kills the frame rate. But anyways, even at 1080 or high, you can still run it, but not both. You can still run it at around 30 FPS, I would say. So definitely playable, just on the verge of being playable. Barely playable, I would say. So, yep, that's Control. That's still a lot better than any of the, Win3 or ANEO can run this game. Those devices can't really run this game on high or on 1080. But on medium, I think it can run on maybe 35 FPS or something I was getting on it. But yeah, this one, if you run a medium, 720, you get easily, yeah, 50 FPS, which is nice. So, pretty good. Okay, let's see how well it runs Crysis Remastered. So, we're going to do campaign, continue, and we're going to start off with the highest setting, which right now it is 1080p with high settings. So, let's push the win forward to see just how much you can,
Make sure your silencer's attached.
how much you can do on this game. Okay, not very well, okay. It's not running very well right now. 15 FPS, okay. It does not run very well in high settings. Let's change the graphics level down a bit. That's a little bit too much for this device. Okay, I'm going to change... Yeah, I'm going to change the graphics settings to medium. Okay, now let's see. Okay, wow, that's a huge difference. Wow. Okay, changing the graphics settings from high to medium is like... That's a massive difference. So I was getting like 15 FPS when I had high settings, and now I'm getting almost 60 FPS at medium settings. So there's like a 45 FPS difference between high settings and medium settings. What the heck is going on? Okay, that's interesting. I never seen a game that had this big of a difference, medium and high. Wow, there must be a lot of things going on in high settings then. So yeah, right now it's at 1080p though. So, well, what can I say? It's already almost at 60 FPS and it's at 1080p, so running at 720 wouldn't make too much of a difference since it's capped at 60 FPS. So yeah, it's very impressive. I'm running Crysis Remastered at 60 FPS, and it's capped really at 60 anyways. And yeah, it's everything on medium, but it's 1080, so just double check that. Yeah, it's at 1080. So, yeah, it runs it really well, actually. Almost 60 FPS at 1080p. That's pretty good. Medium settings. But once you turn it up to high, it can't handle it, basically. That's the weird thing about Crysis, is I turn it up to high, it doesn't handle it. But medium settings is totally fine. It's beyond playable, you know. It's very playable, actually. So, that's it. I guess just if you plan to run Crysis Remastered, make sure you run it on medium. That's all I can say. Crysis Remastered, it's running at 720. Again, I have game mode, 720, medium graphics. Actually, this game you can kind of hear the surround effect of the speakers better. It actually does a pretty decent job. Alright, so this is the Outer Worlds. It's a game from 2019, and right now I have the settings up to 1080p high settings, okay? So let's check out how well it does. One of my favorite sci-fi RPGs, by the way. At least in recent memory. Alright, so yeah, high settings, 1080p. We are getting... Oh, we're actually going to the 40s, nice. Okay, there's a little bit of... Okay, yeah, sometimes there's issues when turning, but it's fine, I think.
Are you listening to me, Emperor?
Okay, yeah, I'm getting like high 40s, which is very impressive. I mean, this is high settings, and it's 1080. So, yeah, actually in 50s now. Very playable. So this game is actually very playable. Let's see if I can up it even more. So we can... dial it back down to 720, 1366 by 768. Okay, apply that. And let's see. Okay, so after applying that, okay, it's going above 60 actually. It's going, yeah, easily 65, 70s. Very nice. So it's, yeah, easily going above 60s when you dial it back down to 720. So this Outer Worlds is obviously very, very playable. So yeah, Outer Worlds is definitely very, very playable. Yeah, it's just even on full HD high settings, you're still getting 45. And then if you really want the full 60 FPS experience, then yeah, just dial it back down to 720, and you'll get easily over 60 FPS. So yeah, runs Outer Worlds pretty nicely, I would say.
Move along.
Yeah, who knows when there's more action going on the screen though, but you know, just being idle, I think it runs really well. Alright, so this is Immortals Venix Rising, and I have the graphics set to full 1080p on high settings right now. So yeah, let's check it out. This is another game that's kind of like, it looks deceptively like easy to run, but it's not. Because it's just because it's cartoony doesn't mean it's necessarily easy to run, you know. So it definitely looks cartoony, but it's actually a pretty demanding game to play. And, you know, proof of that is the fact that it's only running at 30 FPS right now. So, you know, it ran like Crysis Remastered like pretty easily, ran Outer Worlds pretty easily. This game is actually running, yeah, maybe about 30 FPS average. So it's actually kind of, it has to push itself to run this game. Yeah, so this game is actually a fairly demanding game. So right now, like I said, 1080p and running at high graphical settings, and we're getting about 30 FPS on average, meaning it's barely playable. So yeah, Immortals Phoenix Rising, very man, this is a very demanding game. So I haven't even been in action yet. Maybe when the action parts come. So far it looks like it's more demanding than God of War, apparently, just judging by the how it's running. Yeah, I would say it's barely playable right now. So let's see what we can do. We're gonna dial it back down. Let's see, display. We're gonna dial it back down to 720 here. Yeah, 3066 by 768. Apply. Okay. Here we go. And let's see what that does. Okay. Doing a bit better now. So before, you can see like on 1080p it was like actually dipping below 30 sometimes. It was going to the 20s, but now you can see it's definitely staying above 30 pretty easily. It's getting around 35, so you got maybe, well, actually it's going 40 now. Okay, nice. So we got maybe like a 5 to 10 FPS improvement by lowering the resolution. Let's see if we can do even better than that. See if we can dial down the graphics even more. So right now it's a high. Let's go down to medium. Let's see what happens. Okay. Oh, it has to completely restart the game. Okay, interesting. Apparently changing the graphical settings completely restarts the game. I did not know that. Okay. Well, better be worth it then. Let's see what that did. Alright, so now at medium graphical settings at 720. This is as optimized as I want to go right now. And I think we're hitting, we're still high 30s actually. But we're hitting 40 now, so that's good. So whereas before on high settings, like we were basically, it was hard to hit 40. Like sometimes it might go up to 40, but very rarely. But now we're consistently, you know, hitting 40. So yeah, I would say we're getting about 40 FPS, around, yeah, high 30s or 40 FPS on medium settings on 720. So I don't think that it makes too much of a difference, honestly, when I changed it from medium to high or from high to medium. So it's like totally opposite of Crysis, whereas Crysis, if you change from medium to high, it's like a 45 FPS difference. Here it's just like maybe a few, like 3 FPS difference. So man, really depends on the game, right? Yeah, but so far Immortals Phoenix Rising, I would say if you could play this game, it's comfortably playable on yeah, 720 I would say, but 1080 you can actually go 1080, it'll still be playable, but just, you know, barely playable on high 1080. If you really want to be playable, then probably 720 on high would be my, yeah, would be on, because there's not too much of a difference between high and medium, it looks like. So might as well just do 720 on high settings, I think, would probably be my my recommendation if you want to play Immortals Phoenix Rising on the Win 4. But otherwise, runs it fairly well. Definitely better than the Win 3 and Neo again. And as you can see, it is quite unplayable. It's at 13 FPS right now, and yeah, this is very, very disappointing. I mean, I already dialed the graphics quality down to medium. It's already on 720, not 1080, and I have it on the highest, yeah, the highest mode, game mode, which is supposed to be the highest wattage. Yeah, still not very performant. Alright guys, so overall I have to say I'm very impressed with the GPD Win 4. As you guys can see in the God of War demonstration, the GPD Win 4 was able to get maybe 35 to 40 FPS in God of War, exactly, well, not exactly, but similar to the performance that I got on the Steam Deck, which is a much bigger device. So yeah, it's roughly comparable in performance to the Steam Deck, I would say, and that's fairly impressive. Like, I expected it to be kind of competitive with the Steam Deck, given the fact that the the Win 4 released after the Steam Deck, and it is. It's very competitive with the Steam Deck at a much smaller form factor. So again, with the comparisons here, I have my GPD Win 3, obviously more powerful than the Win 3, has a better keyboard, better speakers. Overall, it's just better than the Win 3 in pretty much every way. It's like a little bit thicker, but whatever, not too much of a big deal. I would say it's just almost strictly better than the Win 3. Then compared with the AN Neo Air Pro, the AN Neo Air Pro is a lighter device for sure, and it's probably a little bit more portable. But again, when you're talking about something of this size, I can't think of anywhere where an AN Neo Air Pro would fit, but a GPD Win 4 would not, right? Like, yeah, it's a lighter device, and it's slightly thinner, but overall it's not that much different than the Win 4 in terms of the dimensions and footprint. So yeah, I mean, unless you're going to be holding it all day, I don't see why you would get the AN Neo Air Pro over the Win 4. The Win 4 is just a lot more powerful in almost the same form factor and footprint, and plus it has a physical keyboard. So yeah, I would say definitely the Win 4 is pretty much almost strictly superior to the AN Neo Air Pro and the Win 3. Okay, how about the Nintendo Switch OLED? Okay, Nintendo Switch OLED, now I do have third-party controllers on here. I have the Hori Split Pad Compact controllers on here, so it's not entirely fair to compare the controls. But yeah, I mean, the Hori Split Pad Compact definitely has the best controls out of all my handheld gaming devices. It is a third-party controller, but it's done really well. The D-pad is, it's very responsive and easy to use. Slightly small, but not too much. Still very, very usable, and the face buttons are very easy to hit, very satisfying. Analog sticks right here are very easy to use, very responsive. Overall, the Hori Split Pad Compact is probably my favorite out of all the controllers that are like built into the devices. I think the Split Pad Compact, obviously, it beats like a lot of the built-in controllers, but compared to the Joy-Cons that are built in to the Switch, yeah, I would say the Win 4 definitely beats the Joy-Cons. So yeah, with the Nintendo Switch is a bit harder to compare because this is a dedicated console with its own dedicated library and lots of exclusives, namely Nintendo exclusives, so it's hard to compare the library. But I will say that, of course, with a dedicated third-party controller like the Hori Split Pad Compact, I do like these controllers the best. But for a more fair comparison, we should compare the one that's bundled in, right? So the Joy-Cons compared to the Win 4, obviously the Win 4 controllers I think is better than Joy-Cons. The Joy-Cons are not great controllers. They're usable, right? You can use them for party games and whatever, but they're not really used for serious gaming. I would not use the Joy-Cons actually for a long time anyways. So yeah, I would say the Win 4 has better feeling controllers than the Joy-Cons. And then the display, the Nintendo Switch OLED has a 7-inch OLED display, which is, I think it wins on the display. I mean, the Win 4 has a pretty nice display. It's a 6-inch IPS, but the Nintendo Switch 7-inch OLED display is really nice, and honestly, it's probably the best display out of all the gaming handhelds I have. So I guess where the Nintendo Switch wins is probably the display and the third-party controller support, right? That's really cool as well. Obviously, you can't add third-party controllers to these other handhelds here. And another thing, I guess, is the dimensions. Of course, the Nintendo Switch is a thinner device, so you can see how much thinner it is than the GPD Win 4. But again, as what I've said with all the rest of these devices, I can't think of a situation where you might fit one of these devices but not fit this one. Like, that's unless you have like a really I don't know, like a small purse or something like that with just not enough space. I think if you can fit one of these devices, you'll be able to fit, the Win 4. So yeah, that's basically what I have to say about that, the Switch. But it's a different story when it comes to the Steam Deck, isn't it? Because the Steam Deck is just a massively bigger device than all of these. So yeah, I mean, just look how big it is, right? It's just a monster. It's a beast. So you compare it to the GPD Win 4, it's clearly bigger than the Win 4 substantially. It's actually not thicker. In fact, So the Steam Deck actually might be a little bit thinner than the Win 4. But in terms of the overall dimensions, yeah, it's a lot bigger. So I can see a situation where you might not be able to fit a Steam Deck, but probably you'll be able to fit a Win 4 because the Steam Deck is just that much bigger. But one thing I have to say about Steam Deck, now in terms of power, I already said that it's fairly comparable in terms of power, but the controllers on the Steam Deck, I still prefer the controllers on the Steam Deck. It just has a really nice D-pad, face buttons is easier to press for me, feels better, and yeah, like the analog controls, really good. The triggers actually, I actually really like the triggers on the Win 4. I think, yeah, the Win 4 triggers I actually like better, but analog stick, face buttons, D-pad I prefer on the Steam Deck. And then it has these this other like kind of I don't know what to call this, little pad thing where you can move your mouse is preferable to the optical track point nub. Like it just is. it's much bigger. So yeah, display is also bigger on the Steam Deck. Of course, a 7-inch display. So that's pretty much a comparisons between each, right? The Win 4, Steam Deck, Neo Air Pro, Win 3, and Nintendo Switch OLED. So just to go over all the categories again, like a TLDR, I guess. In terms of power and performance that you get, the Steam Deck is in Win 4 are the best out of all these. They're the most powerful. In terms of price to performance ratio, though, the Steam Deck still wins because the Steam Deck is cheaper than the Win 4. So the amount of performance you get for the price, the Steam Deck still wins. In terms of the controllers, I would say I like the Steam Deck controllers, built-in controllers actually the most. In terms of not built-in controllers, third-party controllers, the Nintendo Switch Hori split-pad compact controllers win it overall. Yeah, but these are not built-in. These are third-party controllers. In terms of the sound quality, I think the Steam Deck and the Win 4 probably. Yeah, for me. Like you guys have heard, the Win 4's like speakers are actually pretty darn good. Huge improvement over the Win 3. In terms of the display, Nintendo Switch OLED probably wins that one for me. Nintendo Switch's 7-inch OLED display is the winner there. The only other device that has an OLED display here is the AN Neo, but the AN Neo has a smaller display. Oh yeah, I forgot to take into consideration the resolution of the displays as well. So yes, the Nintendo Switch OLED does have the best display in terms of the size and the type of display. So it's an OLED display and 7 inches, so that's nice. But in terms of the resolution, the AN Neo Air Pro and the GPD Win 4, because they're the only ones that have a full 1080p Full HD display. The rest of these, the Steam Deck, the Win 3, and the Nintendo Switch, only have a 720p display, or something close to 720 technically. So yeah, I do have to mention that. So if you do take the resolution into account, then I think the best display would probably be the AN Neo, because it is both a 1080p display and it's an OLED display. So this is the highest resolution OLED display out of all these different displays and devices. However, it is not the biggest display, right? As you can see, it's only 5.5 inches. So yeah, it really depends what you guys want for the displays. Yeah, if you just want the biggest display and highest quality, biggest display, then that's the Nintendo Switch OLED. It's got a 7-inch OLED display, but it's only 720. If you guys want the highest resolution, but not necessarily, care about the size as much, then the AN Neo Air Pro has a 5.5-inch 1080p OLED display. So it really depends whether you prefer the size, the actual physical size of the display, or the resolution. So yeah, it's a little bit weird that the AN Neo has a smaller display but higher resolution than the Switch, but yeah, it's I guess that's a Nintendo's thing. They don't want to hurt the performance by bumping up the resolution, so they keep it, I guess, down. The same thing with Valve, I guess. They didn't bump up the resolution because they want the games to run more smoothly. But yeah, that's basically, if you want to choose the displays, probably it's going to be either the AN Neo or the Nintendo Switch. So in terms of battery life, I think the Nintendo Switch definitely wins there, because battery life is correlated with the resolution of the display and the amount of power in the handheld. And plus the fact that Nintendo actually has optimized games specifically made for the console. That's why the battery life is definitely going to be the Nintendo Switch's strong point, I would think. Yeah, so it has more optimized games, has a 720p resolution display, and the power is not as much as most of these devices here. So yeah, I would say for battery life, Nintendo Switch definitely wins out. And also, if you're just talking about pure price point, yeah, Nintendo Switch is definitely going to in terms of just being the cheapest overall, yeah, Nintendo Switch wins there. But then you had to buy the games at full cost, which we all know that PC games often go on sale. Nintendo Switch games not so much, not so often. So yeah, in terms of just the cost of the handheld, for sure, Nintendo Switch wins there too. And then battery life, it wins there. So yeah, there's still a reason to go for the Nintendo Switch, because even though there's still competition from all these other PC gaming handhelds, which are usually more powerful, what the Nintendo Switch does have advantage in is having the exclusive library of games, especially like the couch co-op games, multiplayer games, Nintendo games, right? Good games that are good for just casual fun and parties and stuff. Having multiplayer support, right, for a lot of them, well optimized. We all know that PC games can have issues with the drivers and stuff. And having a pretty good display, right? It's got a nice 7-inch OLED display. The speakers are pretty decent. If you get third-party controllers, the controllers are really nice as well. The price point is very good for the console. It's probably the cheapest out of all these just for the console. And battery life is probably where it wins out as well. So yeah, it's also very versatile, right? It comes with a dock, whereas with the dock you had to buy it separately for these devices. So all in all, yeah, all these handhelds are still, you know, way more powerful and stuff, but Nintendo Switch still does have its place. So for connectivity and ports, I would say that the GPD Win devices have the edge here. So both the Win 4 and the Win 3, as you can see, come with USB-A ports, which is still really useful because there's still a lot of USB accessories that use USB-A. I know for me, I have USB flash keys that still use USB-A. I don't want to buy a new USB-C one, so it's really useful to have these connectors. In addition, the GPD Win 4 comes with an additional USB-C port, so that's pretty useful. A Neo comes with 2 USB-C ports, but no USB-A. And the Steam Deck only comes with 1 USB-C port, so you have to basically use the docking station if you want to get more expansion. And then the Nintendo Switch, of course, just comes with a bare minimum, basically, just the charging port for the USB-C and docking port. So yeah, that's basically it. I would say that if you're looking for a device that has all the ports, like without having to expand on it, then the GPD Win devices are probably the best, especially the Win 4, because it comes with 2 USB-C ports and a USB-A port. The Steam Deck and the Nintendo Switch have probably the least amount of ports, like they only come with 1 USB-C. Pretty anemic if you ask me. You basically have to connect them to a docking station if you want to expand on them. And then all of them come with headphone jacks and micro SD, thankfully, so you can expand the storage. But I would say the GPD Win 4 wins, and it's my pick for the most connectivity and ports. I mean, it has 2 USB-Cs and a USB-A, so really what more can you ask for, right, in terms of a handheld gaming device. In terms of functionality, the Win 3 and the Win 4 both have keyboards, which is nice, but the Win 4 wins because it has a physical keyboard instead of that touchscreen keyboard or haptic feedback keyboard that the Win 3 had, which, you know, I don't like. I'd rather just sometimes I wish I'd rather not have it at all. So anyways, yeah, I would say in terms of the total package of what you're able to do with the device, the Win 4 probably wins it overall. Just look at the size too, right? The size wise, I would say the Win 4, well, technically the Win 3 is a little bit lighter and smaller, and the A Neo is also a bit lighter, but yeah, I mean, all 3 of these are fairly similar in size, actually. The Win 3, Win 4, and the A Neo. And then GPD, the Win 2 actually is the smallest out of all of them, but it's not really comparable in terms of performance. It's just in a league below. In terms of the total package, I would say the Win 4 is very, very good. I mean, the display is, yeah, it's pretty good for an IPS display. Right, it's not as big as the Steam Decks, it's not OLED, but it's still pretty good. You have this physical keyboard here, which is just nice to have. You have the option, right? You don't really have that on anything else here. And then, yeah, the speakers are nice, and the performance is really good. It's really up to the Steam Deck in terms of performance. It's not the cheapest, it's $900, so it's not cheap. But then again, it's not more expensive than the Win 3. The Win 3 is like $1,000. I remember I paid for it, so it's not more expensive. So yeah, I think definitely the price might be the main issue for people. But hey, right? You have gaming laptops that cost $2,000, so this one you can actually play on the go. Yeah, and then in terms of the controllers, like, yeah, definitely an improvement, I would say, in terms of the trigger buttons, especially in the analog controllers. I did definitely like a lot better than on the Win 3. So still not up to the Steam Deck's levels, but you know, this is a bigger device. So I understand space concerns are probably why the D-pad and the face buttons are smaller than I would like them to be. But overall, I think for the overall package, yeah, the Win 4 is very, very good. I'm impressed with this. Like, I remember when I did the review for the AN Neo, I was a little bit disappointed because I was expecting better performance. Win 3, I was disappointed mainly because of the keyboard. And Steam Deck is just, I really like the Steam Deck, it's just the size of the thing, right? It's pretty massive. But the Win 4, not much to complain about, honestly. Good controllers, good display. Yeah, battery life, I guess, is another thing, but none of these devices have really good battery life. The Switch probably wins in terms of the battery life, I guess, because it's optimized. The games are optimized for it. And yeah, just in terms of the features, ports and everything, the overall package, having physical keyboard, like, yeah, sound quality, I can't complain about much about the Win 4. Like, the main thing I would probably complain about is maybe the D-pad and face buttons can be definitely improved, I would say. And I guess it's definitely bulky still, so it's slightly heavier than the Win 3. It's still bulky, but still very compact and portable. I wish the display was OLED, and really that's about it. I don't really have too much to complain about it. Lower the price, obviously, would be a big thing, but I don't know how GPD, how much they can, you know, lower it while still maintaining profit. They're not a big company like Valve, so yeah. Overall, I'm very satisfied with the Win 4. I think it's a really impressive device. It's able to compete with the Steam Deck in performance. It's a lot more compact than the Steam Deck is. It improves upon the Win 3 in many, many ways. So, yeah, it's just overall, I think this is the gaming device to get. If you guys are looking for a Windows gaming device that's an alternative, a smaller, more portable alternative to the Steam Deck, then check this one out. I know the Asus is coming out with a new one as well. Sony might be coming out with a new one, I heard. Those are just rumors. But, you know, for now, right, we do have the Win 4 out right now. And I do think that this is a really nice, it's an expensive alternative to the Steam Deck, but look, it's just way more portable and has a physical keyboard, right? So those are the main things I would say. The main advantages it has over the Deck. Similar performance to the Deck, but with a physical keyboard, and it's a lot smaller and more portable. So that's it, guys. The GPD Win 4, let me know if you guys have any questions or comments, and as always, thanks for watching.